Hello, I am Liliana. It is a pleasure for me and an honor to be here in this presentation with you and that Emil has invited me. The topic I am going to touch today is about the archons, where the origin of evil on this earth comes from. According to the secret apocryphal book of John, there were perfect humanities before us who had no evil, who had no negative feelings. And that is where Jesus comes from. There was a fourth humanity, where humanity deviated because the laws of the divine being, of the source of the divine being, of the source of the one and only Creator God, the one and only Creator. An impure thought, a negative thought gave rise to a deviant humanity called Jesus, called the humanity of Sophia's creation. This creation produced a being called the demiurge or Yalbaus. And from this creation, this being was believed to be the first ruler, the material part. He thought he was the only God. He thought he was the creator. And what he did was to manipulate our creation and other creations. These beings of the creation of mankind, they came to the earth because they are several. They are accompanied by the demiurges. No, they are accompanied by the archons, who are the rulers. They are the rulers of this earth. They visited the various worlds and they met the earth. The earth already had a perfect humanity, the original humanity, in images and images of the Creator, but they came here and manipulated our race, inserted in us the gene of evil of materialism, damaged the original creation, and from there arose our deviant humanity. When they came to earth, they enslaved us because they needed food. They needed our materials of this earth. And by manipulating our genetics, we became their slaves. We forbade them food. This creation, by joining with the genetics of the women of our race, they created beings that are the Nephilim. They are giant beings, beings that were or are or were evil, carnivorous, bloody. And the Nephilim were the result of the union of the women. And these beings, archons or demons that came down to earth. When mankind was full and the yen was full, and the earth was full of these giants that were carnivorous, they were bloody, they killed the animals, they killed everything. The divine plan decided to put an end, and that is why it is told about the deluge that appears in the Bible. But it is a copy of the Astahasis, which is a flood, of the Astahasis, which is a Sumerian text. The same as the Enumelis, it is a copy of this text which is a plagiarism. And that is the supposed genesis of the Bible. When this flood happened, some beings were saved, some beings that were good from the union of the woman, and these Nephilim, and these beings, there were some good beings like Noah and some others that were beings that were not exactly as the Bible tells it, that it was in a boat, but they were taken from this planet, they were taken out. Beings, in other words, the divine plan to help them, to help and protect them while the flood was passing. That was then the remnant that remained on earth and returned again to populate it again. But some of those others remained, that negative faction, And those are the ones who have inhabited Mesopotamia, Babylon, Sumer, and these beings are the ones that were then from Babylon passed to Canaan and formed a religion. They are the Hazarian Jews. That is where they come from. Who are these beings? They are remnants of these malevolent beings. And they formed their own religion, their own culture, their own book, which begins with the Torah, which is the Pentateuch, with the 5 books. They created the Old Testament based on many stories that are in the Sumerian texts, in the tablets. For example, Moses did not write the Old Testament as we are led to believe, nor was there an Exodus. They never left Canaan, because Canaan is a province of Egypt, and Egypt was the world power at that time. There is no archaeological evidence to prove that there was such an Exodus. The Exodus was when they came out of Babylon, but not the Exodus. They came out of Egypt. So they, through this religion, through this culture, have made themselves out to be the chosen people. But of course they are the chosen people. But from that dark deity over there, from Babylon, which is Baal, then in Canaan, they were polytheists. They were a people that worshipped many gods, which were not gods. They were these negative extraterrestrial beings that came to earth. And they worshipped they had one of those, every entity favored them in some way, and they offered sacrifices because they asked for sacrifices. They asked for food. They were slaves. They had to offer their crops, their agriculture, their animals for those dark deities that ruled the world at that time, and in exchange for favors. They always favored them, but as long as they offered what they wanted, they were carnivorous beings, bloodthirsty beings. That's why in the Bible, in that Old Testament, of autonomy, we see that he was a god who was bloodthirsty. He did not mind making holocausts of children, of women, of babies, of newborns, because they are negative beings, they are extraterrestrial beings, they are the malevolent beings that came to earth and have pretended to be the true God, the Father of Jesus. That is why Jesus came to earth as a divine plan. He was sent to those perfect humanities to liberate us, to show us, to open our eyes, and he showed us, he told us who ruled this earth, who were the archons, who were the dark beings that came to humanity and perverted it, who modified our genes, who blinded our understanding. And that is why we do not know the God, the true God, the God full of love, the Father of Jesus, because Jesus came to show us that there was something more after death, that these beings hid from us. They hid reincarnation from us, which is life after death on this earth. They want us to remain blinded because if we do not know that we have a reincarnation, that it is the divine plan of ascension, when we know this truth, that we are powerful, when we know this truth, that we are powerful, that we can destroy these negative forces that have come here and feed on us, these malevolent beings feed on this gene that they left implanted in humanity, of negative feelings, of envy, of resentment, of anger, of jealousy, of lust. Jesus came to show us that through love, compassion, forgiveness, positive feelings, we destroy the rulers, these demons. And do not give them a place in our life. And when we purify ourselves, when we purify our soul, our spirit, with the good feelings, We do not give them a place in our life, and when we die, we do not continue in our life. When we die, we do not continue in the samsara of karma, but we go faster to the source. When we are aware of this truth, our spirit, our soul, our being is able to go to the light more easily. That was the plan that was designed from the higher realms, from the divine source, for Jesus to come and show us how to get out of this, from that great source, from the divine source, for Jesus to come and show us how to get out of this, from that great source, from the divine source. How to get out of this great lie that deceived us and that had enslaved the earth. That's why it was so. That is why they crucified him. They crucified Jesus. It was because he came to show another God, another being different from the another God, another being, another different from the demiurge, the first ruler, the one called Yahweh, because that Yahweh is the one that is the negative being that rules this earth, that being that the religions worship and that worships people without knowing what they are worshipping. Those temples were built for that being to capture the energies of the people that are there, because those temples were built so that that being could capture the energies of the people that are there. What they are worshipping, those temples were built for that being to capture the energies of the people who are there, because by making us think that Jesus died for our faults, for our sins, we vibrate in negative, in low feelings, which are feelings of guilt. Feelings which are feelings of guilt, feelings of sadness, of pain. Being in those churches, in those places, concentrates all that energy that they feed on. Also settled, we have been enslaved, and for example, that is why the tithe was also enslaved. That comes from the Old Testament, and then it passed to us, to the New Testament, when it was conformed in the year 325. In the Council of Nicaea by Constantine, Constantine was a being that was not religious. He was a being. He was malevolent, he was a politician, and he was interested in that. He saw that Jesus was an important figure and that a lot of people followed him. And as they persecuted in the Inquisition, they persecuted the Christians, and they saw that they could not finish with them. Then they decided to form a religion together with Rome. Rome decided to unite with the Jews, and the Jews annexed with the New Testament that was formed from several books that they compiled, that they decided which ones were interesting and which ones were not, because that way it was easier to manipulate and through religion enslaved people. They left out all the apocryphal texts that were the texts where the real, or where the message of Jesus was, where he showed us that we were divine beings, beings made in the likeness of the true God, of the creative source, that we had our connection directly with our heart, that we did not need any law, nothing, only love, and that the heart really showed us what was good and bad, that we did not need to follow doctrines of men or anything else, but they twisted it. Doctrines of men or anything, but they twisted everything, and by hiding these books, we were denied all this learning, all this message, all this message. All this learning, all this message. And that is why these books were hidden by the first Christians, and in 1945 the Apocrypha of Nahamadi have arisen, which are the Apocrypha where they show you all the true message of Jesus. They have been manipulating us with religion, and through of it they have obtained a very prosperous business, because they charge for the indulgences, for the masses, for everything they have charged. And it is a business that has kept people enslaved to this day, indoctrinated and blinded with that veil that to this day remains. These archons have tried to manipulate humanity at all times up to this day by means of feelings, as I told a while ago. By means of the feelings, as I told a while ago, a moment ago, especially the negative feelings. So that is the spell. What happens when we are kidnapped? The energetic kidnapping is when these dark entities dominate us. When we are not able to understand this truth, we are prey of these entities, of these parasites. When we understand this truth, when we open our eyes and we realize that we are powerful, Jesus came to show us that we could go out and dominate these entities when we are conscious of them, that we are aware of them, that we are powerful. When we are aware of them, that they exist, and that we, through love, through positive feelings, through forgiveness, through compassion, through all the good feelings, then they can come out and dominate these entities of all the good feelings. Then they cannot enter our mind. They cannot parasitize us. There is also another very important way for us to clean our body, our aura, is by means of natural things like sea salt, bathing with sea salt and seeing the light, visualizing the light. Visualize the light, visualize the light, visualize the love, visualize the source of Jesus. It makes that those entities cannot enter in our mind or in our heart. There are also plants like the sage, in the form of sage, which can be used to cleanse our body and our aura. In the form of incense, we can burn it in our house and it drives away all those negative energies because they are not interested. They don't like that smell. So we can use our positive feelings to make them feel better. We can use our positive feelings to make them feel better. Through our positive feelings, we can get rid of those entities. The people who are kidnapped is because they vibrate low. They are in negative feelings. Then they are... when we start to vibrate in love, in good feelings, they cannot parasitize us. They try to parasitize us because when they know that we are strong, they go to our loved ones. They try to harm us through our loved ones. So we must be aware of this and be neutral, be calm, and remain non-reactive in neutral feelings. And by being aware of this, they can't harm us. So being conscious of this is the best way to take care of ourselves against black magic, against Satanism, against all that, against all the archons that accompany the God, the demiurge of this world. Thank you for this participation. It is for me an honor to have been with you and to have shared with you some of my humble and little knowledge. A humble and little knowledge. Thank you very much for being part, for making me part of you, and for being part of this great family.